Coming up on 5 Minute News. COVID herd immunity will not happen in 2021, says WHO. FBI warns of plans for nationwide armed protests. And Trump returns Cuba to list of state sponsors of terrorism. It's Tuesday, January 12. I'm Anthony Davis. The World Health Organization chief scientist said on Monday that herd immunity to the coronavirus would not be achieved in 2021, despite the growing availability of vaccines. Mitigating factors to herd immunity include limited access to vaccines in developing countries, skepticism about vaccination, and the potential for virus mutations, according to health experts. A growing number of countries around the world, including the United States, the United Kingdom, Singapore and Germany and other EU countries, are in the first stages of mass vaccination campaigns. Herd immunity occurs when enough people in a population have immunity to an infection so that it prevents the disease from spreading. We're not going to achieve any levels of population immunity or herd immunity in 2021, she told a briefing, while emphasizing that measures such as physical distancing, hand washing and wearing masks continue to be necessary in containing COVID-19 spread for the rest of the year. She commended the incredible progress made by researchers to develop several safe and effective vaccines at unprecedented speed. Countries are currently administering vaccines developed by BioNTech and Pfizer, Oxford University and AstraZeneca, and Moderna. The WHO scientist called on people to be a little patient, saying the rollout of vaccines does take time as the scale of dose production is in the billions. The vaccines are going to come, she said. They are going to go to all countries. But meanwhile, we mustn't forget that there are measures that work, she added, referring to hygiene and social distancing. In the United States, which currently has the world's highest daily case numbers, officials said on Monday that over 25.4 million vaccine doses have so far been distributed, with nearly 9 million doses having been administered. In Germany, more than 600,000 people have so far been vaccinated against COVID-19, according to the Robert Koch Institute for Public Health. We won't get back to normal quickly, Dale Fisher, chairman of the WHO's Outbreak Alert and Response Network, told a conference. We know we need to get to herd immunity, and we need that in a majority of countries, so we're not going to see that in 2021, Fisher said. There might be some countries that might achieve it, but even then that will not create normal, especially in terms of border controls. The FBI is warning of plans for armed protests at all 50 state capitals and in Washington, D.C. in the days leading up to President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration, stoking fears of more bloodshed after last week's deadly siege at the U.S. Capitol. An internal FBI bulletin warned as of Sunday that the nationwide protests may start later this week and extend through Biden's January 20th inauguration, according to two law enforcement officials. Investigators believe some of the people are members of extremist groups. Armed protests are being planned at all 50 state capitals from the 16th of January through at least the 20th of January, and the U.S. Capitol from the 17th of January through the 20th of January, the bulletin said. The FBI issued at least one other bulletin. They go out to law enforcement agencies nationwide. Before the riots last week, on the 29th of December, it warned of the potential for armed demonstrators targeting legislatures. The riots followed weeks of online calls for violence in the nation's capital in the waning days of Donald Trump's presidency. There have been several arrests and at least 2 Capitol police officers, one who took a selfie with rioters and another who put on a Make America Great Again hat, were suspended. At least a dozen more are under investigation. Poised to impeach, the House of Representatives sped ahead on Monday with plans to oust President Donald Trump from office, warning he is a threat to democracy and pushing the vice president and cabinet to act even more quickly in an extraordinary effort to remove Trump in the final days of his presidency. Trump faces a single charge: incitement of insurrection. After the deadly Capitol riot, in an impeachment resolution, the House will begin debating on Wednesday. The Trump administration on Monday announced it was returning Cuba to the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism, a move that could complicate any efforts by the incoming Biden administration to revive Obama-era détente with Havana. Just 9 days before Republican President Donald Trump leaves office, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said Cuba was being listed for repeatedly providing support for acts of international terrorism by harboring U.S. fugitives and Colombian rebel leaders. Pompeo also cited communist-ruled Cuba's security support for Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, which he said had allowed the socialist leader to maintain his grip on power and create a permissive environment for international terrorists to live and thrive within Venezuela. With this action, we will once again hold Cuba's government accountable and send a clear message. The Castro regime must end its support for international terrorism and subversion of U.S. justice, Pompeo said in a statement, appearing to create a diversion for the homegrown terrorism that had taken place last week in Washington, D.C. Returning Cuba to the list is a further rollback of the détente that Democratic former President Barack Obama orchestrated between the old Cold War foes. Obama's decision to formally remove Cuba from the terrorism list in 2015 was an important step toward restoring diplomatic ties that year. Donald Trump has kept up a steady stream of 11th-hour sanctions announcements and other actions against targets, including Cuba, Venezuela, and Iran, and Joe Biden's aides have said some appear designed to tie his hands when he is sworn in on January 20th. You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate, and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health, and climate, delivering independent, unbiased, and essential world news daily.